Today on 60 Minutes. Today, we will be touching a sensitive subject. Something that may spark controversy or discord among viewers. The issue at hand here is irreligion. And with us today to divulge their experiences, we have two guests, each uniquely qualified to speak about atheism and its relationship with America. Atheism is a growing movement in America that is becoming more widely accepted in society. However, it wasn't always this way. Up until modern history, people were burned at the stake for sharing atheistic beliefs. As America was being formed, the Founding Fathers ushered in the Enlightenment time period. Along with this time period came the notion that people dictated their own lives and made their own decisions. While God was more in the background and had less of a role in everyday life, these beliefs allowed the rise of deism, which was far more accepted than atheism, as it was almost an early form of atheism. Deism entails belief in God, but not a personal God, and deists did not worship any entity. During this time period, there is a notable shift away from institution of organized religion. As Thomas Paine stated, all national institutions of churches, whether Jewish, Christian, Turkish, appear to me no other than human inventions set up to terrify and enslave mankind and monopolize power and profit. These ideas allowed for secularism to exist in American government. Secularism had a large impact on America because it allowed all ideas to be considered. During several religious revivals, such as the Great Awakenings, the wall of separation has been somewhat eroded. This freedom of thought and belief led to many Americans deciding for themselves how they associate religiously. Eventually, a rising trend in atheism was visible throughout American society. In 2014, 3% of Americans were self-proclaimed atheists, and the number is growing as scientific explanations are more accepted by American public. Now, to introduce our first guest, educated at Oxford and Cambridge, and well known for his outspoken stances on religion. Columnist from Vanity Fair, Christopher Hitchens. Welcome, Christopher.
Nice to see you, Christopher.
How are you doing today, sir?
Better when I'm not sober, Christopher.
I hear ya. You know, that makes sense considering you wrote the intro to Everyday Drinking by Kingsley Amis.
Indeed I did. I would consider it one of my better works.
Ha ha ha! Now, let's move on to the meat of the issue. You've been able to reach a wide audience with your books and speeches and such. You've been active in the debate for decades now. Has it become easier? Has there been a growing acceptance on this discussion of atheism? Specifically, how do other people react differently than they might have during the 80s or even the 50s?
Well, I would say that it has become easier, but it's a stretch to say that it's easy. It is still quite difficult.
You know, what do you mean by that? Could you expand on that a little bit?
Well, atheists are more numerous than they were in decades past, and the power of organized religion is not as it was. But atheists in the last year have become a protected class. But if we look at some numbers, we can see that the burden an atheist has to bear is self-evident. Polls from Pew, as well as from other polling agencies that you might have heard of, number open atheists at less than 10% of the population. But a recent research study from the University of Kentucky has concluded that people who hold atheistic beliefs in America might be as many as 26%. Many of these people visit places of worship, profess their faith in public, and live a life of fear, not wanting to be exposed for their true feelings. If not for fear of persecution and isolation, these people would surely be open with their beliefs. For me and for others, atheism is not a shameful thing. But for a child with religious parents, or a person whose peers are all religious, being open about their beliefs can be difficult. I think it can be said that many of these people are in a metaphorical closet. There's an underlying feeling of fear, misunderstanding, and yes, hatred. We as non-believers need to make it known that we can live moral lives. And until others understand that, we will be somewhat of a social outcast.
Sure, Mr. Hitchens. Now you've established that there's an atmosphere of unease for many atheists in America. There are other countries in the Scandinavian region, for example, where atheism predominates. You have said that one of the reasons for leaving the United Kingdom was because it has an official state religion. If you are striving to live in a place where religion has the least possible influence, why come to America, a place where religion holds so much sway?
Well, America is the birthplace of modern secularism, and that's why I came here. This was one of the first places to establish separation of church and state.
Now you've made secularism a center point of your ideology. What does secularism mean to you exactly?
Well, secularism is something that is not only dear to me, but was an idea that was central to the founding of the nation. It is intrinsically American. America was the first explicitly secular nation in modern history. And that's important because it allows total freedom of thought and belief. There is no institution in this country that can dictate what you should believe or promote something in schools that's not falsifiable. Secularism allows for a free market of ideas and gives everyone the opportunity to decide for themselves which beliefs are the most true. It has allowed for us to have this discussion and hopefully more discussions that will lead to a change in minds and hearts, not only about the truth of religion, but first that people who disbelieve are not evil or bad, and that we can partake in a moral society.
I hear you. Now, Mr. Hitchens, you've made clear in the past that you are in a steadfast opposition to religion. Do you believe that outside cultures should be welcome here in America, or do you believe that there are ideas that should not be welcome here?
I'm certainly opposed to some parts of some cultures, which I believe to be inferior. I will never accept anything regarding religion meshing with state, and I won't negotiate on the principles of human rights and equality. Anything contradicting that is abhorrent to me. But to make myself perfectly clear, I do not believe in the regulation of speech or thought. If there are ideas that must be combated, it should be through argument and debate. I do not believe in censoring or banning any ideas, even those totally contrary to mine.
I want to thank you for your time, Mr. Hitchens. Everyone, give it up for Mr. Hitchens. Now, we will introduce our second panelist, creator of Family Guy, American Dad, and much more, Seth MacFarlane. How are we?
Happy to be here.
Good to hear. Seth, growing up in the New England area, the culture can be highly religious, where, atheism is often an outlier. How did you develop atheistic beliefs growing up in this type of society?
Well, I'll tell you, Chris. I grew up in an education-focused household. I was an avid reader. Many of my topics included scientific topics such as evolution or the creation of the universe. These scientific topics allowed me to form my own opinion, which led me away from traditional religious beliefs and towards atheism. My atheistic beliefs even got me a part on Carl Sagan's remake of Cosmos with Neil deGrasse Tyson.
That's interesting, Seth. You've made a huge name for yourself in the entertainment business and are a perfect depiction of an American success story. Has your lack of any religious beliefs, affected your path to success in any way?
Yeah, I guess you could consider me an American success story, able to follow my passion, similar to Jay Gatsby of all people. I came from a lower middle class household, and I had to reinvent myself in much the same way. I had a goal, and I pursued it, despite the obstacles in my path. I definitely think it's a valid comparison, but regarding my religion, I have not encountered any significant opposition, and I often use comedy to make fun of religious beliefs that I find absolutely ridiculous.
I got you there, Seth. What do you think about atheism as a culture? Is there something there? Is it just a lack of belief, or does it come with some of the traditions and norms that we traditionally associate with religious affiliations?
Well, if you'll let me, I'll quote Sam Harris on this one. I'll say, I don't think atheism should be a thing.
You know, that's interesting, Seth. Would you care to expand on that for me?
Sure can, Chris. Well, we don't have a word for people who don't believe in astrology. We just consider them whatever else they are. That way there's no label and there's no stigma. The non-believers certainly tend to have similar beliefs as us. We believe in evolution, and most of the ideas are stridently secular.
I hear ya. Why do you think the movement of atheism has struggled so much in the past to, gain popularity?
That's a good question, Chris. American society was founded on a few major pillars, one of them being secularism. That entails a few things: freedom of thought and freedom of religion, to be specific. So it's ironic that our society has historically been unable to accept atheism. Atheism has gained popularity as the country has advanced and as scientific truths are becoming more widely accepted. However, the stigma surrounding atheism made many feel scared and uncomfortable to admit to others that they are atheists, in fear of being rejected by their friends or other groups. Today, atheism has become more accepted, and people are beginning to view the world scientifically, rejecting religious ideals.
I want to thank you for your time, Mr. McFarland. I really do appreciate it. Everyone, let's give it up for Mr. McFarland.
Now for a special presentation from our correspondent, Nishant Arokiraj.
Here we have a short set of stories from a fellow student who we approached to share his personal experiences with discrimination. He was raised religious, but came to have serious doubts in middle school, coinciding with this person's exposure to scientific explanations, as well as learning about violence and moral degradation associated with religion. When he finally became comfortable with his beliefs around 7th grade, he came to a painful realization. As a discussion about God came up around the lunch table, this person shared that with his friends that he did not believe in God. He was met with mockery and insults, so vitriolic that he did not come to lunch for the remainder of the week. When the student finally came back, it was with the realization that he would have to be careful with such beliefs. This student went on for the next 4 years, attending church and professing faith despite his true feelings. When he had finally felt that his parents were open-minded enough to accept him, he told them. However, he was dismayed to learn that his parents did not accept his beliefs. They confiscated his brand new phone products and told him he would have to go to church despite his beliefs. This student expected no special treatment, but only the same respect and dignity afforded to any other religious minority. But he was instead ostracized and forced to acknowledge someone else's God. These are the disheartening trials and tribulations of someone living in District 200.
Those were two highly educated individuals with a first-hand perspective of the atheistic culture in America. The American dream is, in fact, very real, as depicted through the words of these unique and bold men. In the past, atheists have been almost like Willy Loman. Many have conflict with their family and find friends absent when they are in need. But gradual acceptance has led to an increase in people coming out with their beliefs. This increase in public display of atheism portrays the self-realization pillar of the American dream. Freedom to believe or disbelieve, that is a choice we leave to the audience. Thank you for joining us here on 60 Minutes.